So there's been a lot of talk around the Xbox Series X, mostly because that's all Microsoft has talked about, despite there being rumors and speculation all over the place when it comes to their cheaper platform that they could have ready to go as early as launch. They've been pretty much dead silent on it. And I think that's because they are saving it for the most part for when they start pricing the systems out. It would have, of course, more impact. It makes no sense to tell us about a system that is less capable unless there is a major advantage, which would basically beat the pricing. So I want to talk a little bit about this system today because a new article has come out with some slight information that is at least starting to bring to light when we could expect to see this system and how Microsoft is going to work to cut that price down and what that price could be. So first off, let's talk a little bit about what the system could look like. But if you're new here, make sure you subscribe down below. I'm also starting to get information about the PlayStation 5 as well. So leading up to the next generation for both Microsoft and Sony is going to be a fascinating ride. So make sure you're subscribed below to follow it and like the video if you do enjoy it. This is what I do think the Xbox Lockhart will look like. And I kind of like the look of this. This is a mock-up on Reddit. I'll link below to it because it is a very high resolution image, so you can zoom in pretty far on it and check it out. But I expect it to be a very clean looking system that is essentially a GameCube look. Like, it's going to be the Series X cut in half. So on one side, you have a large fridge looking device, and on the other side, you have a GameCube without a handle. So that, at least to me, makes sense. I see the sync button at the bottom. I almost wonder if Microsoft would want to move that to the side, or even, I thought about the back, although it'd be kind of strange to have to put your hand behind the system to get to that to sync a controller. But if the front of the system is smooth and very clean, I think it'd be pretty neat to have what's essentially a little cube kind of in your entertainment center, and it would fit a lot better, I would think, than the Series X. Also, the color scheme makes sense. Of course, we'll probably get all kinds of special edition systems for either one, but to start out, it'd be similar to what their Xbox One S is and their Xbox One X. One, of course, is black, the other one is white, and it just makes it easier to differentiate between the two at retail. So the article that came out today is from Windows Central. Jez Corden wrote it up, and it is a very good read. A lot of good information here, because what he did was he went around and did a rumor roundup. So I'll link to this down below if you want to check it out further, and I do recommend reading through it. There's also some information about an Xbox headset. I'm not too interested in that myself, but I do know there are people who are big-time audiophiles out there who might be very interested in a first-party headset from Microsoft here for the Xbox, it seems. Now, in this article, one of the biggest things that they go over immediately is pointing back to their original report about Lockhart. Now, we see here it says, we're expecting Lockhart to be a 4 teraflop entry point to next-gen gaming, and it should effectively replace the Xbox One X. Now, this is starting to line up more and more, especially since we've heard that the Xbox One X is not seeing replenishment in stores. We've seen that the Cyberpunk system is going to be limited to 45,000 units, and it's going on sale in June when Cyberpunk comes out in September. Why do we think that is? Because if it was me who's guessing here, I would say they need to get the production for that done so they can start on what could possibly be 2 systems for launch. And the Xbox One X appears to be getting phased out as they are selling them at $300 currently with no plans to resupply for these retailers. So keep that in mind. It does appear that Lockhart could be replacing Xbox One X like outright. Now, I hear from a lot of people, why would they replace the 6 teraflop system with a 4 teraflop system? Well, to be honest, Lockhart, either way, will be much more capable than what the Xbox One X is now. I mean, you can look at it and say, okay, it by the raw number count, it's not. And technically that's true, but it's going to be very hard to compare the Xbox One X to Lockhart. Lockhart at 4 teraflops will probably still be able to run circles around the Xbox One X. It's on RDNA 2, the newest architecture from AMD, that's not even available in consumer-grade cards right now. We're still waiting for them to introduce those and tell us all about that. So we'll be on cutting-edge technology on that end. But then the CPU, which is the biggest issue, the biggest bottleneck with something like the Xbox One X, that bottleneck will be completely eliminated because they're going to be making the move to Zen 2, which is miles ahead of those terrible Jaguar cores. So that's a big jump. And then you also have on top of that the jump from mechanical hard drive to an SSD, which we assume would be through NVMe, and that would work to reduce load times and, to be honest, completely influence world building when it comes to these games. We've heard of this from developers already, and let me give you an example. If you've played Final Fantasy VII Remake recently, or you know what, Jedi Fallen Order is another one. There are times where you're going through the game and all of a sudden it slows you down and makes you go through this little area to get to another area, right? You have to kind of just wedge yourself through it, and it's purposely there. And you run across those a lot, right? You're like, wait, another one? Why do I do this again? They're purposely slowing you down so that they can load the next area. If we're dealing with SSDs that are miles faster than these mechanical hard drives in these systems, you wouldn't have that at all. These open worlds would become essentially more open, and there are a lot more options for these developers. Pair that with the much better CPU, and even at 4 teraflops, you would get a much more capable system like overall. They also mention here perhaps some limited ray tracing. I'm wondering if that is just their own speculation or if they've heard something about that, because if they are trying to cut down the price, I feel like there's a chance, it depends on the Series X pricing, there's a chance that Lockhart could come in at $300, all right? Now, if the Series X is $600, Lockhart very well could then be $400. I think that's the biggest part, is if they want to introduce Series X at $500 to maybe mess with Sony a bit, then you would see probably a $200 price difference between these two systems. But if Series X has to be $600, then Lockhart can fit in at $400 without too much issue, because it's still a much cheaper option. I don't think there can be a $100 price difference between a system that very well could end up being 3 times as powerful, right, as Lockhart. That would just be strange. But a few ways I think they could cut down on pricing. The biggest one, obviously, outside of just the overall capabilities of this system when it comes to its GPU and anything that goes into basically the system on a chip there, would come down to, I think, the SSD. Now, the SSD in the Series X is 1 terabyte. That's from Microsoft themselves. I would look at Lockhart and say they could probably cut it in half to 500 gigabytes. You might say, well, wait a minute, that's too small. We've seen what happened this generation where games ballooned to like 150 gigabytes. It's not possible. Well, we've heard from Mark Cerny himself that the move to SSD technology, like the solid state drives, would actually affect file size. Keep in mind, he mentioned this about Spider-Man, where there are way too many, just as an example, lampposts, right? Because you can't have the hard drive itself seek while you're going through the level to seek all the way back to the center. If you kind of scatter them all over the place in this hard drive in the files, then it's much easier for it to get to the next one faster. But with an SSD, you don't have to worry about that at all. So being able to reduce redundant files in these games would most likely shrink the file size down. Pair that with Microsoft and their smart delivery system that they keep touting, and all of a sudden, this system that is aiming to be more of a 1080p or 1440p system may just need files that are like half the size of what the Series X would look for. Now, another piece that's very interesting here, because it could start to tell us when we would see this Lockhart system, is that they heard recently that Lockhart is entering take-home stages for Xbox employees to get their hands on the system and begin providing feedback and testing. Now, keep in mind, Phil Spencer just randomly said, hey, I'm playing Scarlet at home right now. And then what was that, a month later, all of a sudden it's at the Game Awards being shown. So I don't think it's going to match up that exact, like, oh, okay, they're doing that now, and then, a month later, hey, here's Lockhart. But it very well could, like, Lockhart could end up being just a press drop, but I also think they would want to show this system when the pricing is revealed. So, hey, here's Series X, it's $500, and we're also going to have a cheaper SKU at launch for $300, and it's called Series S. So would they be able to do Series S with the Xbox One S on the market if they wanted to keep it around for a very cheap SKU for the first year? I almost don't think so. I feel like they would have to choose, or they would have to name it something else, like Series Y or something weird. But Series S makes sense right? I think that is the way to go. And you know what? If you have to eliminate the Xbox One S, that's the way it is. You got to eliminate it. So if we move into next gen and we have a Series S at $300 and a Series X at $500 at launch, yeah, Microsoft would have a substantial, I would say, advantage over Sony just in the availability for consumers when they go to market to pick which system do I buy at holiday. Now, there has been a lot of speculation around Microsoft having 2 events coming up. So one in May and then one in June, around when E3 would have taken place. And it's something that I've heard. It's something that a lot of people have heard. And I do believe that will happen, but I think Lockhart will probably be saved for the big reveal for pricing, which probably will end up being in June. I think the first event will probably be around games, and that's good because that's what we really want to hear about right now. I think we can wait on pricing around the system because most of us are already like, okay, I'm getting the Series X. I want the best possible experience, and I think it's going to be $500 to $600. We've already come to terms with that, most of us who are plugged in and following this build-up. So I think the pricing can wait until the proposed June event that we believe would have been around E3 time anyway. But I want to know about Halo Infinite with gameplay. I want to know about what Playground Games is doing, and then all of these other developers they have, including the Initiative, which is their own studio that they built from the ground up. Let's see the games there, and then we'll worry about the hardware a bit later. But let me know what you guys think about these rumors around the Xbox Lockhart. I think it's going to be called the Series S, and I do think it'll be about $300 myself, but I'm curious if people would buy that if it really does play the same games and it still has an SSD in it, the new CPU, and yes, it's weaker, but it still provides a pretty good experience. Would you opt for that? Or would you just opt to buy the beast that would be the Series X at that time if you had to pick one? Thanks, guys, for watching. Make sure you like the video on the way out if you enjoyed it. Dislike it if not, and I'll see you next time.